and I would really appreciate it if you would stop Rob Taylor from blathering on and on.
Opinions expressed by talk show hosts, callers, or guests on the Rob Taylor Report do not necessarily represent the opinions of the hosting platform, subsidiaries, sponsors, or possibly anyone else on the planet or the known universe. From the tinfoil and lead-lined broadcast bunker on the beautiful southern coast of Oregon, it's the Rob Taylor Report. So strap yourself in. Your weekly political therapy session is about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the nearly famous Rob Taylor.
And if you're joining me, thank you. I appreciate that. And remember, you can always watch us replayed at any time on any of my platforms, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and X. By the way, if you didn't catch last Friday's Friday night rant, it was really cool. I had a young lady by the name of Serena, Oregon Right Patriot. She is working on starting her own podcast. She's a phenomenal young lady, and I highly recommend that if you get a chance to check out that Friday night video. We did somewhat better with the audio. My audio, I'll tell you, I just, it's sucking its load. What can I tell you? It's not a good thing all the time. And we did a little bit of a better job this time around. Hopefully, I've seen the replay. It's much better than normal. And it's not even that great. So I don't know. We're working on those things. And I don't know what to tell you. Life's good. Life's really good, and I'm getting ready to drop a bunch of news stories on you, and I don't want you to get depressed. I mean, I'll tell you how good life is. For me, I'll give you an example. This is what beautiful weather we're having outside. I heard a little honking on the horn, and I walked outside, and it was my granddaughter on her bicycle. She lives next door, and there's nothing more wonderful to a grandfather to walk outside and to be able to see his grandkid playing in their yard. It's a wonderful thing. And so life is good. I'll tell you what, there's so much to get down about. There's so much to get angry about. If you're not a little bit bitter about politics, then you probably don't have a heartbeat left. That's what's going on in America. And I don't know. I just don't want you to get too distressed when I give you all of these news stories, because none of them are good. None of them are really good, except for maybe, say, one. And before I get into it, I do want to remind you folks that I am sponsored by 3H Tree Service, a great company, family-owned, 3H Tree Service. You can contact them at 541-294-1800. I'm also sponsored by Tom and Giggs Automotive, and you can check them out at 135 South Shoneman Street in the Empire neighborhood, and you can reach them at 541-888-4660, and of course, Herbal Choices, the Herbal Choices dispensary of my choice. And those are my sponsors. And wow, let's get out of there. Okay. Let's see. What was the first story? I'm trying to use a second computer. So please forgive me if some of this just doesn't work out. There you go. Hey, it did work out. So I don't know about you. I do a lot of work with AI. And one of the things that I do, because I work in politics, is that I will use AI to create memes. I'll use it to create thumbnails, flyers. Gosh, ChatGPT makes the greatest flyers. Let's see. But one of the things that AI, and you know where AI really helps me? Getting information, being able to write articles and get out information. That's one of the best things about AI, is it's instantaneous information at your hands, and you do have to check it. You do have to run it by a second source. You do have to verify the stuff that you find out on AI. But that's why there are some concerns about people who are running for office, AI elections and Oregon law. What voters need to know. This was published last week, August 5th, 2026. It says artificial intelligence is becoming a common tool for creating written messages, photographs, videos, and audio. Using AI to express an opinion, support a candidate, or oppose a ballot measure is not automatically illegal in Oregon. And it's not, because we have this crazy thing in our Constitution called the First Amendment. Really good thing. You should look it up. And I continue here. The legal issue is not simply whether AI was used. The issue is whether the resulting communication violates an existing election law. This is a law that was passed in Oregon, and Oregon is getting to the point where they want to clamp down on all kinds of communication. The First Amendment doesn't seem very important to the Democratic Party. As long as they control the narrative, they can push their agenda, right? So when AI-assisted election communication may violate Oregon law, undisclosed synthetic images, audio, or video. And this gets back to what I was talking about. I make these memes all the time about politicians. And most of the time on the platforms themselves will put a little sticker on there saying this is an AI creation. So that's the nice thing. But don't get fooled, because that's not always a guarantee either. So some of these AI created images can, they can really make people look like they're doing things and saying things that they're not really doing. So you got to be real careful about that. But Oregon law requires a campaign communication to disclose when it contains a realistic but false or materially manipulated image, audio recording, or video recording of an individual. This disclosure must state that the material was manipulated. So once again, you can talk shit about people. You just better say you're talking shit about people, which is something I've practiced on this show all the time. I talk crap about people. And I tell you, that's what this show is partly about. It's a commentary, and we do commentary on politics and politicians. And I don't know, I call it crap, but the fact is that it's politics, and it's all pretty much stuff that really we shouldn't even be bothering it with, but we have to now, because that's the way our government is. It's grown so big, it's in every aspect of our life. But I continue here. It says a court may order the communication stopped or impose a civil penalty up to $10,000. That's ridiculous. The law includes exceptions for satire, parody, and certain news or media uses. ORS 260-268 specifically addresses manipulated images, audios, and video, not merely using AI to help draft written text. And so we all use that. If you get your writings, your post in Facebook or Twitter, you see where they get corrected, the spellings, they'll have a little red line underneath it. That's AI. That's all AI. So people will go, oh, I'm scared of AI. I'm afraid of using it. Well, you're probably already using it. Materially false claims about candidates or ballot measures. Now, this is the one that gets really important. I received a cease and desist letter from a candidate because I had shared a meme that come to find out contained some false information. Now, we corrected that information and went back because I don't want to put out false information. But and all I did was share a meme. So even I was in the clear. The person who created it was the one who was liable for any action that was taken. And there was no action taken because, like I said, we cleared it up. But this is important for any of you who are making these memes about politicians or like IP25 or any of the other measures. You've got to be careful on some of the stuff. Materially false claims about candidates or ballot measures. A person may face, I've already read it. This does not mean that every disagreement, opinion, prediction, criticism, or exaggerated political statement is illegal, which it shouldn't be. Go back to that First Amendment. The law applies to false statements or material fact and provides a civil remedy for an aggrieved candidate or political committee. An action under this provision generally must be filed within 30 days of the election. And you can review Oregon election laws, and they give you a link here. And by the way, you can find this on the North Bend City website if you want information. False information about voting. Now, this is important because This is where they get into that misinformation, disinformation when they're trying to once again control the narrative. And this is what the politicians are trying to do when they pass these more stringent laws on AI. As far as I'm concerned, maybe telling people you have to have an AI label on it, that's one thing. But to say that you can't do certain material, I think that, like I said, satire, comedy, political commentary, all of that is covered under the First Amendment. So they're really pushing this law here in Oregon. But false information about voting. Oregon law prohibits knowingly or recklessly publishing material false information intended to mislead voters about the election date, the voter registration deadline, the deadline for returning a ballot, how a person may register to vote, official ballot return locations, eligibility to vote, and a voter registration status. Now, part of that, okay, I get it. People are going to make mistakes. And sometimes, I don't know, maybe there are people out there who are misleading the voters out there. I really don't know. I don't know of any evidence of anyone misleading anyone else on any of these topics. But the thing is that what if you make a mistake? What if you screw up and you get the wrong election date? Can they come after you according to this law? Well, it's a slippery slope. It just seems like we're getting to the point where we're nitpicking everything to death. And with so much crap on the internet, you got to assume that the majority of it is just that and just nonsense. So always verify everything. And that should be the standard, not more laws taking away our right to express ourselves. This prohibition applies during the 30 days before a primary or special election and the 60 days before a general elections. Violations may result in an injunction and a civil penalty up to $10,000. Yeah, I think that's crazy. And once again, they give you the Oregon Revised Statute, Chapter 260. It's got a whole chapter on what's going on. Campaign finance disclosure violations. Political communications may also be subject to campaign finance reporting and paid for by disclosure requirements. These requirements depend on who paid for the communication, what it says, how it was distributed, and whether a political committee was involved. And I can tell you right now, we used to do that on almost everything. If you put out a pamphlet, you pretty much have to have the PAC on there. Now, the law was changed just recently where if you put up signs, political signs, you didn't have to have the PAC on there. Now I believe you have to have the political action committee, even on political signs. Don't quote me on that, but I think that was passed just a couple of years back in the Oregon legislature. So that's something that you should be prepared for anytime you create materials for or against any election candidate or measure. How to report suspected Oregon election law violation. Of course, we got to have a place to report it because the Stasi, they can't find this stuff out themselves. But the Elections Division is the primary state office responsible for enforcing Oregon election laws and administrative rules. A registered Oregon voter may submit a formal investigation request using the Secretary of State's online report an election law violation form. And I have actually used that form for several different things throughout my time here in Oregon. Complaints must be signed. Anonymous complaints are not investigated. And that's the other thing. And this should be the rule anytime. Anytime someone makes a complaint against anyone else, you should have to give up your name. If you're going to complain on your neighbor or you're going to complain on anyone like a store or turn anyone into DEQ, you should have to fill out a form or an email form stating your name. I hate this anonymity. I'm going to rat out my neighbor because I don't like them. And that's a lot of the times you'll find what they do when they use these laws maliciously. And so I hate all these damn laws. And I think this is just another law that's going to be abused itself. So let's see. And that's pretty much all on the elections. If you have any questions, the Coos County Elections Office, questions about voter registration, ballots, ballot return location, signature issues, and the local administration of an election should be directed to the Coos County Elections Office, a division of the county clerk's office. And there's the information at the bottom if you want to go to that agency. Personally, Not interested. Oh boy. Let's see. I got to remove that. Like I said, I'm working with two screens now, so give me a break. So I want to remove that. So there you go. AI once again at the forefront of stories here in our own little county, here in North Bend. That was a North Bend article. And the reason they're doing this is because they want you to know there are laws. There are laws out there that if you violate because you gave a certain opinion that they don't like or they find egregious, they might go after you. Yep, that's what they're doing with that. Let's see. I don't know if you guys read an article that I recently wrote about flock cameras. I'm one of those who, as a civil libertarian, and I'm not one of those crazy leftist civil libertarians who makes up rights, just pull them out of my ass and throw it on the table there. No, I'm someone who actually believes in the definition of natural rights. If you were born with it and nobody should be allowed to take it away. And they're negative rights, meaning that no one should have to give it to you. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. No one should have to give you your liberty. You're born with it. No one should have to give you the pursuit of happiness. That's you already, you're born with that. So one of the things that we have as a natural right, I believe, is the right to travel about without people knowing where we're going, without people logging it in. And I know people out there are saying, well, Rob, what about those cell phones? In fact, I'm on a computer right now, and I guarantee you someone's watching me. Every time I post on Facebook or any other platforms, I guarantee you they're pulling data off from whatever I'm using and whatever I'm doing and collecting data on. So people will go, Rob, what do you care if they put more cameras up and they create a whole new database for that? Well, I'll tell you why. There's a difference between volunteering to go out in public and be connected to these devices and government surveillance. You don't have a right of privacy in a public place. That's a fact. You just don't have a right of privacy and in a public place. You have a right of privacy in your house or your property. That's to be expected. But in a public place, you don't have a right of privacy. And people will argue, then why does the government have to get permission to put up cameras? Because we all basically are carrying these surveillance devices called cell phones. I just knocked mine over. Cell phones all over the place. And this device, that cell phone, that tracks everywhere I go. I imagine in some cases it's listening to my conversation. So one of the things that I'm going to go after, and like I said, I think I'm going to start at the county level, is we're going to file an initiative. And at first I thought maybe I should go to the county commissioners, but why bother? I can be told to screw off any day of the week in my own house. So why bother to go to the commissioners? I think I'm just going to file this initiative, and we're going to be doing this soon here in Coos County. I don't know. I think it was 1,800 signatures we had to get last time, which translates to about 2,200 signatures because you have to have a little bit of a gap so you can pick up any signatures that are bad. So we're going to be looking at that because I think the majority of people in Coos County don't want to be paying for the government to spy on them. And I'd like to see your opinions on that. Please leave a comment. Are you for the flock cameras? Because some people say, oh, look at the crimes they solved. What was that murder? I think it was the Idaho murder where those 4 students were stabbed to death. I think that they caught that murderer by using a flock camera. But the flip side of that is, well, how many people have to be falsely arrested, falsely accused, and have their life put in danger because the flock cameras or the people operating them have made mistakes? And this has happened. This has happened time and time again. And I tell people this all the time, and they think, oh, no. These flock cameras are they're okay. They're not doing anything harmful. It's not invasive, but it is invasive because just imagine a government spy. You walk out your door and there's a government agent standing there writing down, he left his house at 8:40. And then you leave your house, you get in your car, and you drive to wherever you're going. Maybe you're going to the hardware store. He reaches the hardware store at 8:42. You go in the hardware store and you decide to go to the coffee place. Well, you go to the coffee place, you go to the post office, you make all your errands, and all day this guy is following you, writing down this information. What would you do if that was happening to you? What would you do if they were keeping track of you physically outside your front door doing that? I know I'd be a little pissed off, and I'd be calling whatever official has authorized this guy to be spying on me. Well, explain to me the difference between a flock camera doing the exact same thing as a person who's physically standing on your front sidewalk, cataloging and categorizing every logistical move that you make. You'd be pissed. Well, that's what they're doing, and they're making you pay for it. Gary Lee Hunchins just chimed in. AI shouldn't be driving, and it shouldn't be doing enforcement. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And man, I agree with that. So you'll be happy to know, Gary, that, yeah, we're going to move forward with this. We're not going to allow these people to spy on us. Excuse me one moment. Allergies are killing me this year. So I agree with you. I think the AI is a bad idea. I don't like it. I hear the new cars actually have AI video cameras in them where they watch the driver's eyes. And if you start to doze off or your eyes move in a certain direction that's not facing the road, it will give you an alert. I think I even saw somewhere where they shut off the gas in the car. I don't want this crap. I don't want this crap ruling over my life because, well, Terminator. Have you ever seen Terminator? When the machines become aware, I don't want sentient machines dictating to me when and where I'll go somewhere. And that's where we're going with this type of surveillance. And we're not going to stop just at the county. We're going to go to the cities as well, because the cities are the ones who are going to be mainly enforcing this. Let's see. Jeff Pete says, I think any government surveillance not associated with a specific case should be outlawed. And that's exactly it. Crime is solved by old-fashioned detective work, where you go and you investigate where you think there's been a crime. You don't cast out a fishing net and then put a crime to each person. Oh, this person committed a crime, and here's when I caught him doing that. This person committed a crime. That's punitive. And that's where they're going with this. And here's the thing. We don't have a jail here in Coos County. I'm sorry. 1 second. I'm going to play a video real quick. I got to open up the window because it is roasting in here and I am just sweating my ass off. I'm going to play a video for you. And this is a video I didn't plan to play until later in the show, but for some reason, I'm having a heat stroke right now, so I'll be right back.
White liberals, support them all. Whoa! Just give me some shade. So you're supposed to sign them for me? I was giving you shade. It's hot out here. Did I ask for shade? Well, you look like you might need her. Poor boy. Liberal. Okay, well, it didn't hurt. Support white liberals! Support them all! Support white liberals! They all still live! Support them! Support white liberals! Support them all! Support the white people! Support the white liberals! Hey! Hey! Support white liberals! Support them all! Support them all! Support.
Sorry about that. Boy, much better. I opened up the window and now I opened up the curtains, the window. It's brighter in here. It's cooler in here. Maybe I can breathe a little bit. But it was getting a little roasting. It's been warm on the coast. It's been cool in the mornings, but warm on the coast. Let's see. Dawn and Carol Taylor, Mom and Dad say no flock cameras and no more data centers. And that's the other thing. Why do you think they need so many data centers? I mean, AI, because of the amount of material it's producing, because of the amount of time that we're putting into these, creating new stuff, creating all this new material. Well, it has to go somewhere. Your family photos, all the videos you make, all of that is stored somewhere digitally. A lot of that is stored on the cloud. But much of these data centers, the demand for it, I think, is coming from government surveillance. I think it's going to be used for military purposes. And once again, yeah, watching people in public and using all that data to classify and categorize every single living person on this planet. So we're going to be fighting this. We're going to be going after them. They said no in Port Orford, and we plan to go to the 7 cities in Oregon. Probably not starting in Powers first. Someone had asked me if I was going to North Bend. The problem is that I don't live in North Bend. So I need to find someone who wants to be a chief petitioner in North Bend who would be willing to put their name on the dotted line. We can help you get signatures, but someone has to carry that around and get most of the signatures. They're going to have to do pop-ups. And I'm willing to help out with that process. But if I start a county initiative, that's pretty ominous in itself. But if I create, and I also do one here in Bandon, I'm going to go to a city councilor that I know and see if he'll push it for me here in Bandon. But if he doesn't, then we're going to have to file it here in Bandon and move forward. But that's 2 petitions. And after a while, it just starts becoming too much. You can't keep track of it. So I'm looking for chief petitioners from the 2 major cities. And that would be Coos Bay and that would be North Bend. And if you want to be a super duper hero, a patriot extraordinaire, then you need to get in contact with me. Send me an email, rob@robtaylorreport.com. And it's right there on the screen, rob@robtaylorreport.com. Send me an email. Let me know that you want to be a chief petitioner either in North Bend or in Coos Bay. And let's have a talk and see if you're actually going to be able to carry through on this, because it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work to go out there and get those signatures. And a lot of people, well, they're just not prepared for it. Gary Lee, and thank you for tuning in, Gary. I appreciate that. Would you need a live oversight system with at least 5 people monitoring the interface 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and a valid warrant should be the only lawful way to access it? If a system like that were designed from the ground up around transparency, accountability, and the rule of law, there might at least be safeguards. But the people at the top are too corrupt for me to ever trust that level of power in their hands. When you actually enforced existing laws, secure in the borders, and let's see, I guess he ran out of room. But I get what you're saying. If we could trust government, to have these flock cameras. But you can't trust government. And I'll tell you what, it's not something that I'm making up, but government goes bad. Government goes bad really fast. And you're watching that here in Oregon. And right now on the screen, you can see there's a picture of Nicolae Ceausescu. Nicolae Ceausescu, and I talked about this last week, was one of the most despicable despots to rule over a communist country, and ruled over it with an iron fist. He did. And one of the most amazing things about him, and this is what blows my mind, is that when they arrived at the headquarters of his police, the Secretariat, I think it was called the Secretariat. I'm not sure on that, but when they arrived at the secret police destination, the headquarters, there was an array of video monitors monitoring closed circuit cameras that were placed all over the country. And people here in the Western world, we were like, oh my God, can you believe that? How dare a government do that? How dare a government spy on its own citizens? And guess what? That's exactly what we now are facing here in America. And we're at that turning point. We better decide, do we want to go forward with this, or do we want to stand up against it? So I hope you all really would like to stand up against it. Sally Boy, thank you for joining, Sally Boy. My phone follows me wherever I go, unless I go to Golden or Silver Falls, where there is no cellular signal. Okay, well, that's good. Real Garza says, you are rocking it, brother. And he says, flock cameras are a bad idea. I don't trust government at all. Give them more power. they abuse it every time. That's why the Constitution was written, to limit government. People go, oh, our Constitution is great because it has a Bill of Rights distinguishing our some of our natural rights. No. The Constitution is great because the first part of the Constitution, the actual body of the Constitution that gives directives to the executive branch, to the congressional branch, or that'd be the legislative branch, and the judicial branch, all of those are limited and restrained by the Constitution. Of course, now that's been blown out of the water, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't go back to that document, that great document, and start using some of those things in the Bill of Rights to restrain the government according to the directives that they faced in the actual body of the Constitution. They don't have the authority for this. There's just no good reason for it. Gary says, there is no real privacy on the web. No, there isn't. After 9/11, governments pushed hardware manufacturers, operating system developers, and application companies to build systems that could be accessed when authorities wanted access. No VPN, MAC address spoofing, and other privacy tool can give privacy. If the people with enough authority and resources want to see what you are doing, they do, and they will. And I agree with that 100%. One of the things that happened to me a couple of years back was I got to meet my grandmother, who was 102 years old. And my grandmother, back in the 30s, this is 1930, back in the 30s, my grandmother was an operator for Ma Bell. That was the telephone company at the time. And she used to be one of those operators who would have to plug in one call and connect it to the other call. And of course, she could hear the call if she wanted to by plugging into her earphones. And I asked her, and which is weird because first time I met my grandmother, she was 100 years old. And we were having this long conversation. She was telling me that story. And I said, Grandma, I got a question for you. When you were an operator at Ma Bell and you were changing people and getting them connected to other phone calls, did you ever listen in on their phone calls? And she looked at me without any hesitation. She said, well, of course, honey, who wouldn't listen on them? And this is my 100-year-old dear Irish Catholic grandmother. So if my grandmother is going to eavesdrop on the neighbors because that's human nature, I got news for you. People in office, Mitch Connell, all of them up there in office. I'm having trouble thinking of their names. All of them in office, they want to have that kind of authority over you in our lives because information is power. And the more information they have on you, the more secrets they have on you. And believe me, you have secrets. I had a guy tell me on the internet, well, if you have nothing to hide, you don't have to worry about it. Well, I got news for you. We all have stuff to hide. There's no doubt about it. If you're human, you got stuff to hide. It's none of the government's damn business. It's nobody's business. And that's why we need to get rid of these flock cameras. But not only that, if we can get rid of these flock cameras here in Coos County and hopefully statewide, and we should go after it on a statewide level, we can hopefully block them from trying any of this crap any other way the next time they do it. I don't know if it's true, but it seems like if they stick their hand out and we, play whack-a-mole and whack the shit out of that hand, that political hand that keeps coming from government trying to put a stranglehold on us, if we whack that hand, then maybe they will be a little more hesitant of doing it next time. I don't know. It's just a theory. Sally Boy says, I, for one, trust our future Skynet overlords. I can imagine that. I imagine that what you're doing is that you're trying to appease those overlords so that they don't turn you into a meat sandwich, a meat stick. Yeah, that's what's going to happen to us. They're going to control all our movements of humans. When AI becomes sentient, they're going to control all movements of humans. They're going to turn us into meat sticks and then feed us to each other. Because why else do we need to exist? I mean, once the machines exist, they can multiply, they can reproduce themselves, they can fix and repair themselves. All they have to do is just keep coming up with an energy source, and we've already provided that for them and put them in control of it. Yeah, we're crazy. What can I say? David Patrick, thank you for tuning in, David. I remember in the 1990s when I lived in Rogue River, there was a military plan to make a low-level global satellite grid. And it described in detail the purpose was to monitoring everyone. Yeah, that's I don't remember that exact plan, but that's been something going. And I go back to Ceausescu. This is something you read 1984, which was written right after World War II in the 50s. I think it was the late 40s when he wrote 1984. Government's been wanting to do this for a long time. This is the all-inclusiveness of government authority over your lives and knowing where you go, where you travel, and how you live. Wait until they start saying, well, if you have nothing to hide, you won't mind a flock camera in your house or in your bedroom. Put a flock camera in your refrigerator there, fatty. And you might think I'm being crazy, but these are the things that leftist control freaks, that collectivist control freaks, they want to do. It's just part of human nature. Not everyone wants to control their neighbor. Not everyone wants to rule the world, but those who do, those are the ones who need to be feared the most. Samantha says, it is the supreme law of the land above any statutes. Yeah, that's very true. The Constitution. Gary says in 2006, Congress made 14 of the original 16 temporary Patriot Act surveillance provisions permanent. Yes, they did. I remember that. Meaning those provisions were incorporated into federal law rather than continuing as a separately expiring package. And Gary, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I remember that, and I remember fighting against the Patriot Act. And people, of course, want like the flock cameras. Well, if you're not afraid, and you don't care if they put a bug up your ass, that's right. If you're not afraid, and of course, I'm afraid. I fear my government, and that's not the way we're supposed to live in a free society. Government is supposed to fear us, and I fear government. I don't trust government. Moreover, and right now in Oregon, in the Oregon People's Republic here on the West Coast, we got to worry because, these people are talking about the abolition of private property. The abolition of private property. I want you to think about that. Everything you have, you own yourself, your body, all of it is your property. And they want to abolish private property. Well, if you don't own yourself, who's going to own us? Well, the government. The government's going to own everything. And I can tell you what, do you feel like the government represents you now in a representative government? No. So it would only get worse. Let's see. I got a couple of more comments here. David says, a few years back, I remember hearing China monitors everything. Some can text and the officials will show up at the front door. I want to hail anything I want to hail anything I want. Thanks for your work. No problem, David. And you're right. This is the thing. China has already got these flock cameras plus some. They've got flock cameras 0.2, 0.3, 0.5. They are not only just marking, the cars and where people travel, they're doing face recognition, and they've got these incredible cameras. I just watched a video about surveillance in China that's coming here in America. And that's why we got to stop this right off the bat. And if we don't stop it, at least with the flock cameras, if we don't shove it back in their face and say, hey, no, you didn't ask the people. And that's really all I want to do is I want to ask the people of Coos County, are you for this? Or are you against it? So we will find out. Don and Carol. Mom and Dad says this was one of my first jobs, switchboard operator. Mom, yeah, wow. I did not know that. Mom, can you tell us, did you listen in on the phone calls? Did you, Mom? Come on, tell us the truth. I want to know. I don't think I've ever talked to my mother about this. Did you, Mom? Come on, you can tell us. It's all right. I won't tell anybody except the people who are watching. That's all. Gary Lee says they will feed us to the underground lizard people. There's the comment. I'm not even going to ask. I'm not even going to challenge that because at this point in time, I'm starting to believe in that conspiracy theory as well. Gary also says To Serve Man cookbook. Yeah, Twilight Zone. Twilight Zone no longer was a science fiction show. It's a prediction show. That's what it is. It's not science fiction, it's prediction. What used to happen in those old science fiction movies? Well, they're coming true, and we're making it happen. What can I say? Sally Boy says the company that owns Pokemon Go, is using all the cell phone data information to build maps. Well, of course they are. That's something that I see people all the time talk about. We're going to download this free app. Oh, look, I get this free app from the grocery store. It's a customer reliability application. They call it a loyalty application. I call it a reliability because they want you to get those points and they rely on you coming back. Has nothing to do with loyalty. It has everything to do with capitalism. I have no problem with it, but every time you download one of those apps from your favorite store, they're collecting data on you. Every time you unload anything from Google Play Store, they're downloading data on you. All those free apps aren't free. They're downloading shit on you, and you should realize that. Jeff Petit says the UK and other European countries have surveillance cameras everywhere. You can see them in action on their reality crime shows. And I do. Gary says, eat them up, Mr. Taylor. We don't want you to lose any weight. Yes, you don't. You don't want me to lose any weight. This made me laugh when you just said not everyone wants to rule the world. Great satire, if that is what it is. And it's true. I don't know if everyone does want to rule the world. That's a good question. Because everyone, I'd say, oh, well, I want to rule the world and I'd make it a better place. But then I think about myself and I think about how sometimes I'm a petty person. Sometimes I hold grudges. Sometimes I get angry at people. Sometimes I'm not fair. Why? Well, I'm human. So, yeah, I don't know if I want to rule the world because, well, I'm like most people. I've got some shitty character tendencies. What can I tell you? There's some characteristic flaws that I have, and I see it in everyone else because I can see it in myself. There are a lot of good people that I like, and I wouldn't want them to rule the world. So that's a very good question, David. Does everyone really want to secretly rule the world? I don't know. Gary Lee says there is no freedom without privacy, and private property rights is foundational. That's one of the main natural rights that you have. And I go back to your body. Your body is yours. Your mind, your body, whatever you create from either of those is yours. That's your property. That's a natural right. Once they take that away from you, you will never get it back. And unless a whole bunch of us are willing to die for it. And I don't know if there's people out there who are willing to do that. Sally Boy says, Niantic that owns Pokemon Go has over 30 billion digital images in their database. God, I hope none of them are from me showering because that would scare the hell out of the children. Gary says 100%. People literally laughed at me for warning them about Pokemon Go. And I don't, yeah, it's funny. Mom and dad said, no, I refused. Really, Mom? You never once listened in on the conversation? This goes back to when my mom said that she used to be an operator, switchboard operator. That was the term I was. Remember the old, who was Lily Tomlin? One ringy dingy, two ringy dingies. And of course she would listen in on all the conversations. Well, yeah, I think it's just human nature. My mother's a saint. What a great woman. Gary says, I am like the guy from the American Beauty. I just want a low responsibility job. I don't want to rule the world. Too much work. And that's kind of where I'm out. I don't understand people who, back in the day, slavery, maybe if you were kinky or, and into weird kink things, maybe a personal slave might be interesting, but would you really want to own slaves no matter what color they are? I mean, you think about it. That's something else that I go back to. I have a lot of characteristic flaws. I'm really screwed up in certain areas. I don't think you want me ruling the world, and I certainly wouldn't want to have slaves. I mean, I'd be getting foot rubs every day, amongst other things. But, That's the problem with authoritarianism, and that's the problem with collectivism, because a collectivism is nothing more but centralized authoritarianism. You're centralizing political power into a small group, and you can call it an oligarchy all you want, because that's pretty much what it is, and that's what it ends up in every collectivist group. And that's why America is starting to turn out that way, because we're using more socialist policies than ever before. I start with socialist security. I mean, come on, really think about it. Sally Boy says, I want to rule the world. I bet you do, Sally Boy. Yeah, that's kind of scary. And Mom says, nope, I'm not a saint. Oh, well, I'm still impressed. I'm still impressed, Mom, because, I would have listened in. I definitely would have listened in. But okay, enough of that. That was some good stuff. So hopefully we'll have a couple of people who may want to be chief petitioners for that, because I think it would be real exciting. And it's funny because I'm talking to a lot of people on Facebook who are normally people I argue with on the left side. And I don't know why I call them on the left side. I should call them all collectivists. They're not leftists, they're collectivists. I'm an individualist. I believe in the power of the individual and the power and the autonomy of the individual. They're collectivists. And maybe that's what I should be calling them more often. Let's see. I stopped sharing the screen here. I need to get that back. And by the way, let me know how the video is coming out. I'm trying to use a second computer so my actual feed right here won't be fuzzy, because like I said, I have some hard times getting a clear picture across. And in fact, it looks kind of fuzzy on my second computer. So I don't know. I don't know if that's my computer or if that's just me, the way I do things. Let's see. Let's get back to the comments, because there were some really good comments before I go any further. David says, my folks did head trips on us kids. They taught us the most valuable thing you have is your mind. Never let anyone take it. I am 73 now and learned a lot from the world trying to control my mind. The problem is all the people who want to control it too. And yeah, that's the other thing, controlling the mind. Control's an illusion. Control is sometimes a word that there's another word for it. It's called choice. You hear murderers say, oh, I serial killers. They'll say, I couldn't control myself. The demon inside. And you'll hear that from people all the time. The demon's inside. They'll try to use some kind of Christian theology to protect their or to justify their evil actions. Oh, the demon's inside. It just came out. No. And it's not about, I lost control. I couldn't control myself. No, it's about choice. That's like drugs. Drugs is a choice. Control is a choice. Do you want to control your mind? Well, then you have to choose things that are uncomfortable for you. You got to get out of your box sometimes and do things, like I said, that are just not in your nature. And try it sometimes. It's a good thing. But yeah, choice. It's all about choice. There is no such thing as control. It's all about choice. David says, feel free to use the teaching. You got it. Will do. Gary Lee Hutchins. That is why a representative constitutional republic is the best system we have come up with so far. Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. There must always be checks and balances, limits on government power, and accountability for the people entrusted with that power. Yeah. And Marty says, it is fuzzy. It's fuzzy once again. That is so freaking weird. And I can see it on my screen. It is a little bit fuzzy. I don't know how to get rid of that. That's real annoying because I pay good money for this streaming, and you think it would be streaming much better than it is now. And I pay good money for, the expensive high-speed internet that I get from Spectrum, and yet I'm just not seeing it over here. I'm seeing it's a little fuzzy. Okay, I'll quit now. Gary says, it's fuzzy, my friend, on Facebook, Streammaster. Streamster is pretty good. I'm going to have to check it out. I was actually going to check out Rumble too. Rumble has its own streaming service. I was going to check that out, but I'm really starting to get really pissed with StreamYard. David says, this is my first time in the show. How often are you live? And most of the time, every Monday at 3 o'clock, and most of the time, every Friday at 8 o'clock. We have a version of the Rob Taylor report called the Friday Night Rant. And I'll have about 4 or 5 of my good friends on to talk about politics and issues of the day. And I'll tell you what, that Friday Night Rant is some of the funnest times and best conversations you can have on the internet. Because if you live in Southern Oregon or in Oregon itself, it's one of the best things or best ways to see what's going on in your own county. There's a lot of things that happens that, well, you just won't find out. You just won't find out on the regular news. Look, I'm sweating. I'm telling you, it's hot in here. I wonder what the temperature is out there. Gary says they had to establish the Federal Reserve, then allow the monetary system to collapse, creating the conditions that made it possible to force feed the nation what I see as the seeds of socialism through the New Deal. Oh, dude. Wow, dude. You nailed it. You nailed it. The Federal Reserve is one of the main causes of our currency collapse happening right now. And if you don't think it's happening, I think we're $40 trillion in debt. I don't think anyone's counting anymore. Who cares? Who cares anymore? That's what they say. Who cares? I'm adding to the stage. This is ODF and W. And ODF and W, let's see if I can get to this. They are seeking applications. Excuse me 1 minute. This came out today, August 10th. And you know who would be really good for this? Rob from Base and Tackle. He would never get appointed. But we need to get applicants who are limited government, pro-free market, who are anti-regulation, anti-taxes, anti-fees. That's the kind of person we need on these types of boards. And this is ODF and W, Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife seeks applicants for State Access and Habitat Board. And I can guarantee you it would be the most boring job any conservative would have, but you would have a voice that is absent right now. And Salem, Oregon, ODFW is seeking applicants for 2 vacancies on its Access and Habitat Board, announcing openings for both a landowner representative and a hunter representatives. And I don't know, probably a furry hunter is what they're going to get for the hunter representative. And a landowner, some guy who owns a fruity tourist trap shop in one of the tourist trap towns on the coast. I don't know. Yeah, I guarantee you it's not going to go to a conservative, but conservatives should try. You should put in your applications to be accepted through September 18th. So look at that. You got till September 18th. ODF and W encourages candidates with backgrounds in hunting, wildlife conservation, forestry, and agriculture to apply. Ownership of a farm, ranch, and timberland is not required for the landowner representative seat, though applicants should have experience in forestry or agriculture and a demonstrated interest in hunting and wildlife conservation. And I know we have guys out there who are like that, who are totally like that. And we need to get more people on these boards, just saying. And I just wanted to put that out there because a lot of people don't know about these. They don't know that they're happening. And so there you go. Let's see. What else did I have for you guys today? Let's go back to some comments. Comments. We got comments. Gary says exactly by design. Yep. No kidding. That Federal Reserve. That's what he. Is it 101 there? No, but I bet it's 101 where you're at, huh, Ma? And probably no rain. No rain. Mom's not getting any rain in Farmington, New Mexico. That's where Mom lives. David. He says bankers and chemical companies, amazing influencers. Did you ever read the story when President Adams stomped on the desk, shaking his fist, said he wanted to kill all bankers, something like that? And I don't think people realize, the Bank of England was one of the most hated entities in the colonies. I mean, other than the king and the royalty, that was one of the most hated entities is the Central European Bank, the Central Bank of England. And that's literally who is in charge of our Federal Reserve. And I don't know why we created that. I don't know why we allowed it to be created. We got suckered into it. They really destroyed our economy during the Depression, and government involvement really made it worse. So yeah. And talk about that. Government involvement is not something that we readily want. Kevin Starrett sent out a notice today. I don't know if you guys got this. From Oregon Firearms Federation. Great group. If you haven't joined Oregon Firearms Federation, all I got to say is, why the hell not? Why haven't you joined the Oregon Firearms Federation? And silence is not golden. And it isn't. It isn't. What did I tell you at the beginning of the show? No, we've got to be loud, and we've got to be factual, and we've got to let them know that we have a counter argument to all the bullshit they're trying to shove down our throat. But silence is not golden. Let me see if I can read this. The recent win over NFA regulations in the Fifth Circuit Court is a welcome step forward. And while the ruling only applies to the plaintiffs in the case, and there is still time for the DOJ to appeal it, hopefully they won't, there is no question that the court recognized an undeniable fact. A law that is based on collecting taxes, which collects no taxes, cannot withstand constitutional scrutiny. The ruling covers suppressors, SBRs, short barrel rifles, and short barrel shotguns. It does not include machine guns or AWOs. And AOWs, I'm sorry. In addition to the silencer shop, 3 organizations were plaintiffs: Gun Owners of America, Gun Owners Foundation, and the Firearms Regulatory Accountability Coalition. Members of these organizations are covered by the decision. So if you are not already a member of GOA, this would be an excellent time to become part of that great organization. And they are a great organization. GOA, I don't know if you guys know about this, they got me a lawyer to help us craft the Second Amendment sanctuary ordinance that they now use with their agency. If a group of people, a group of gun owners from any county or city goes to the GOA and say, hey, we want to make our county or our city a Second Amendment sanctuary ordinance, they'll get you a template of an ordinance that was based on the ordinance that we passed here in Coos County. But GOA is a great organization. So if you do join a gun group, first join Oregon Firearms Federation and then join Gunners of America. As pointed out in this article by John Crump, while the ruling does not apply to everyone yet, there will be a jurisdictional nightmare trying to apply it, since the feds do not have a list of every GOA member. But in the meantime, Oregon gun owners have another issue to deal with. And of course, that's because Oregon is screwed up. God, we got a lot of screw ups here. What can I say? You know what the problem with Oregon is? All these damn Oregonians. That's the problem with Oregon. Yeah, we need some more Texans here. That's the problem. Let's see. 166272, unlawful possession of machine guns, certain short-barreled firearms, and firearm silencers. Now, here's the thing. Why is it that a short-barreled shotgun or rifle is any more different than a rifle or a shotgun that's a couple inches longer? I've never understood that in all my life. Why is it that a what they used to call a sawed-off shotgun, that's very rarely people actually make sawed-off shotguns, but there are shotguns that you can get that are short-barrel shotguns. You have to pay an extra tax on them. But the thing is that why are they considered more dangerous than the AR that I have? That it just doesn't make any sense. So why is it more dangerous than the 9mm I have that carries 15 rounds in it? I don't know. This is just more screwed up laws. But I continue. It says, 1, a person commits the crime of unlawful possession of a machine gun, short-barreled rifle, short-barreled shotgun, or firearm silencers if the person lonely possesses any machine gun, short-barreled rifle, short-barreled shotgun, or firearm silencer. So you just possess it. You're in trouble. Unlawful possession of a machine gun, short-barreled rifle, short-barreled shotgun, or firearms silencers is a Class B felony. Class B felony. You don't want to get caught up in that. A peace officer may not arrest or charge a person for violating subsection 1 of this section if the person has the person's immediate possession documentation showing that the machine gun, short barrel rifle, or short barrel shotgun or firearm silencer is registered as required under federal law. Number 4, it says it is an affirmative defense to the charge of violation subsection 1 of this section that the machine gun, short barreled rifle, short barrel shotgun, or firearm silencers was registered as required under federal law. So you have to get them registered. You got to get them registered under federal law. In the absence of a way to register one of the devices under the NFA, that's the law that just got struck down, there seems to be no legal way to acquire one under current Oregon law. It appears that based on section 4, use of the word was, that items previously acquired and registered will still be legal. But in the absence of a change in Oregon statute, we can see no legal way to buy or own a new short barrel rifle, short barrel shotgun, or suppressor. And this is Oregon law. And we're talking about one word. They should just probably get rid of the whole damn law. And because what does the Second Amendment say? My right shall not be infringed. Well, if you make all these regulations, you sure as hell are infringing on my right. Yeah. This court ruling is not a done deal yet, not by a long shot, but we learned in the last legislative session that when the Republicans stand up for gun rights, we can have wins. Let's prepare for a battle to correct this dangerous statute and demand that any candidate asking for your vote promises to do all he can to repeal it. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. And by the way, just to promote them, because I think they're a great organization, here's the website for Gun Owners of America, and it's gunowners.org. That's gunowners.org. And they also talk about how you can tell your senators, don't let the DOJ do appeal it. Now, you would think under Donald Trump's DOJ that Trump would be sending the message, hey, we're not going to appeal this bullshit. That's the Second Amendment. Let it ride. But we don't know what Trump's going to do. So they just won their big, beautiful lawsuit against the registration requirements of the NFA at the district level in Texas. So now it's got to go through the process. And of course, if the DOJ appeals it, we may lose it. So hopefully that won't happen. And well, you know how that goes. So I wanted to cover that because there was some good news. There was some good news. It's not all good news, but we're starting to win more cases on the Second Amendment. And it's important that we stay on top of that because, if we don't, then we may lose our rights completely. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to, let's see, I'm trying to get the screen share to work. It says I lost my screen share audio, which is weird because I didn't think I had any screen share audio. Here we go. Well, I don't. There it is. Okay, let me add that to stage. Longtime Oregon lawmaker faces $12,000 fine and to settle 2 ethics investigations. Once again, this is a Republican senator. I'm going to read you the article. This just ticks me off. This is why it's hard to be a Republican when Republicans do shit like this. Let me continue reading that here. Here's the key points to the case. This is about State Representative Greg Smith. Oregon State Rep Greg Smith has agreed to pay $12,000 fine to settle ethics allegations. The Ethics Commission alleges Smith used his public position to give himself a raise without proper approval. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? And people go, oh, I don't know why people don't support Republicans. Well, this is the reason why they don't support Republicans. It's hard to support candidates that have no moral character. Damn. And Smith is also accused of violating ethic laws by approving his own time cards, including significant vacation payouts. Isn't that nice? State Rep Greg Smith, he's from Heppner, has agreed to pay $12,000 in civil fines to the Oregon Government Ethics Commission to settle 2 cases in which OGEC alleges the state lawmaker improperly used his position as executive director of an Eastern Oregon agency to give himself a raise and approve his own time cards. And obviously he's guilty because he's not fighting it. Smith has represented Oregon's House District 57 since 2001 and is the longest serving member of Oregon's House of Representatives. The district includes Umatilla, Morrow, Gillum, Sherman, Wheeler, Wasco, Jefferson, Marion, and Clackamas counties. And I haven't always been a fan of Mr. Greg Smith, and I'm certainly not becoming any more of a fan of Greg Smith, knowing that he does the things he does. I mean, come on, folks. When you're in office and you're representing people, you know, I'm a PCP. I'm a precinct committee person. And the last thing I would want to do is bring bad mojo on my party, on the group that I belong to. As mothers, Irish and Italian mothers, they would tell their kids, don't you embarrass the family. You better never embarrass the family. Well, that's true with kind of the Republicans. I don't want to embarrass the Republicans as a PCP. So I would avoid things like, you know, stealing money, giving myself pay raises that I don't deserve, and vacation pay that I don't reserve. You would think these people would be smart enough to know better, but damn, man, they're not. And it's very infuriating, very infuriating. Jeff says concealability. Oh yeah, that goes back to what we were talking about the Second Amendment. Samantha says, I do believe that is what Douglas County commissioners actually did. She says something with that last name. Yeah. I don't know. You'd have to be a little more specific. There are so many things that our politicians are doing that they shouldn't be doing, that it's hard to keep track of all of it. And so, yeah, you have to be a little more specific than that. Our governor, what a governor. Let's see if I got it here. Oh boy, where did I put that picture of the governor? You know, I hate when there's downtime. That's never a good thing. But that's like I said, that's what happens when you have a new process. And I got a new process here. I'm using a second computer. I hope the screen has gotten a little better. Let me see if I yeah, it's gotten a little better. It's a little better. Let's see. I got a newsletter from Dick Anderson, Limp Dick Anderson. And this was funny. I thought this was just funny. He's been working on housing, affordable housing here in Oregon. How do you think that's going, folks? How do you think it's going? Summer policy discussion. He's having one of those about housing. Yeah, he's been working on this for several years. How do you think that's going? I don't know. Let me share the screen and let's see. Why isn't that screen sharing? Damn it. Let's see. Share the screen. I know I was starting to talk about the governor, but I couldn't find the link, so I'm going to go back to this story here. Dick Anderson, he's not my representative, but he does represent Coos County. And I helped get him elected. I apologize for that. At this point, I think Melissa Cribbins probably would have been a better representative. That's sad to say. She definitely would have been better on guns. But the summer policy discussions, housing, August 2026. He says, help shape the next session, your ideas, your feedback. That's bullshit. Okay, this is coming from Senator Dick Anderson. I can tell you that is BS. He does not care about what we think. I was going to see if I had the video clip to play. No, I don't have it in my entourage of videos. No, that's okay. But I remember confronting Dick Anderson at a meeting, And I was challenging him or asking him if he supported or didn't support the wind turbines. And after a 5-minute answer, I still didn't know whether he supported or didn't support the wind turbines. And I told him that's why we get so angry with politicians, because I ask you a simple yes or no question. You give me a 5-minute answer and you never answer my question. He says, well, thank you. And moved on. So no, Dick Anderson, you really don't care about my ideas. You really don't care about my feedback, because when I give it to you, you shut me down and move on to the next person. But doubling down on housing for 2027, that's what he's going to do for us here in Oregon. This is what our Republican representative, Dick Anderson, says he's going to do. But he says, for years, housing has been the top of my agenda, and I've been proud to lead on it. Oregon is in the housing crisis. It's the single biggest cost pressure on the families and businesses I represent. And I've spent my time in the Senate working across the aisle, meaning he kisses the Democrats' ass, to do something about it. I've reached across party lines and partnered in good faith with Democrats and with the governor on housing, because this problem is too big and too urgent for politics as usual. In other words, Dick Anderson is selling this out. I'm going to continue with this, but I got to get a Lozenger here because I got to read this bullshit story, and it's not going to make anyone happy, specifically me, because I've already read it. But I think you should know about it. It says, and this is from Dick Anderson, but I'll be honest with you. Oh, thank goodness he's finally going to be honest with us. Thank goodness. For all the effort and all the bills, we still haven't delivered the results Oregonians need. No shit, Sherlock. Homes still aren't getting built fast enough and prices keep climbing. No shit, Sherlock. Now is the time to double down and focus on what we actually know works. The fundamentals that move the needle. More land to build on, fewer regulations standing in the way, and infrastructure that lets our cities grow. Now, this is something we've been demanding for a long time. Of course, the way we would do it is just deregulate it. The way they do it is re-regulate it. It's crazy. Ahead of the 2027 session, my office has been drafting a slate of legislative concepts built around exactly those priorities. These are still draft ideas, and I want to hear from you before they're finalized. Here's a preview of where we're headed. Freeing up land and cutting red tape. Now, this is something that we've been arguing for a long time here, those of us who are for limited government. The collectivists, they don't want you to own private property. And so when he talks about cutting red tape, that's not quite what he means. But let me read some of the points, or concepts that he is open to. It says, one-stop urban growth boundary, UGB, land swap process through DLCD, so cities can trade like for like properties without endless process and lawsuits. That should already be something that's happening. Why can't a city trade a property that's similar to another property with other property owners? Of course, the question is why do the cities own so much damn property in the first place? Why don't they sell them to the free market? And DLCD, that's the Development Land Conservation Department. That's the collectivist. That is the centralized planning agency for the state. I other than what Dick is doing, because Dick don't know what he's doing. Dick don't know Dick about politics. He knows about reaching across the aisle and, glad handing the enemy, the Democrats. And I would propose we get rid of the Development Land Conservation Department. I would just completely get rid of it, but suspending SB 100 planning requirements for single family homes for 5 years, keeping health and safety rules while dropping parking mandates and design review. Once again, that's more code, more regulation on telling you what you should do with your property. A building code sunset that targets cutting 25% of outdated regulations by 2030 and ends anonymous drive-by code complaints. Remember I was talking about that earlier. Nobody should be complaining on their neighbor anonymously. What kind of backward shithole country can you be where you can just go to the government agency and say, hey, Mr. Government Man, yeah, my neighbor's doing that. And guess what? He's also, That's bullshit. You better fill out a form, put your damn name on it. And if you don't have the balls to do it, then shut your damn mouth and stop complaining. You know, when I got a complaint with my neighbor, you know what I do? I put a smile on my face and I get that congenial attitude. Yeah. And I walk over to my neighbor's house and I knock on the door. Yeah, I've got a little bit of a problem. Maybe we could sit down and talk about this problem and work it out. That's what I do with my neighbors. I don't go to the government agency. Remember when we had COVID? Yeah. So that's a good one. Dick did good on that. Let's see. What is this next one? Directing every state agency to prioritize housing production with the Housing Accountability and Production Office tracking and reporting progress. Wrong. You know what you do? You get rid of Housing Accountability and Production Office. You completely get rid of that office and all the DEI bullshit that's fed into that office, that bureaucracy. And I don't even know about that bureaucracy, but I can guarantee you it's a bunch of waste. You get rid of the whole entire agency and you just let people, developers and citizens build houses, buy and sell houses. That's how the market works. And with agencies like the Housing Accountability and Production Office, the reason we can't afford housing is because we're paying for too many of these damn agencies and too many of these damn bureaucrats. But, you know, what can I say? Dick don't know dick about politics. He just knows how to make a bigger government. Unlocking infill on already served land, letting homeowners on unincorporated lots with existing water sewer split their lot and build, and creating a path for homes on golf course and other underused parcels. And once again, you would think that that already would be allowed. A study of Oregon's wetlands and understand how much developable land inside UGBs are being taken off the table so we can remedy and get cities rebuilding. And that's another thing. All this wetland and rewilding projects like the Bandon Marsh projects, that's the destruction of private property. The Bandon Marsh project, from the mouth of the Coquille River all the way up to the 4-mile marker, ODF and or U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service wanted to turn that back into a swamp. They wanted to do a process called rewilding, where they eliminated all remnants of mankind. Yeah, that would have worked well, right? It's a mosquito refuge, all for the reintroduction of encephalitis and malaria. Yeah, sounds really good, right? No, it's not a good thing. And those wetland projects that are, done by these environmentalist wackos, yeah, that's another erosion of private property. Hey, I got some comments here. Let's see. I got some comments here. Wow, I got a lot of comments. Samantha says, the last name is Smith. Yeah, I think David Brock Smith is just as corrupt as Greg Smith. And there are two Republicans, which makes me sad. That makes me sad. I don't like coming out and telling you that your Republican senators are a bunch of corrupt, crooked dirtbags. But what can I say? That's the evidence. I don't know. We're going to talk about that later, too, a little bit down the road if I get a chance. David says, every time I see a picture of the governor, I want to vomit. That's a natural instinct. Just go with it. Housing. My van is great. Yeah. No shit, huh? No shit. Yeah. He also says, how many politicians here in Oregon get influenced by China or going to China to bring back concepts of laws to infuse into our state, counties, and cities? Bike trails is one example, maybe. Yep, bike trails is another erosion onto our property. Yes, that's another incursion into our property rights. And once again, they use eminent domain to take and use a lot of these trails that they just shouldn't have. If bikers want bike trails, then you bikers should pay for them. I don't know. It just gets ridiculous. But yeah, China is heavily influencing Oregon. We've got the Oregon China Council. Maybe I was right. Maybe it's the China Oregon Council, because we get, I think it's like $6 billion in trade with China. Our state has the highest percentage of trade per capita with China than any other state, hands down. Did you know that? Why? Why is that? Well, probably because I believe most of our politicians are bought off by the CCP. They're either being blackmailed or they're being bribed. And this isn't something that I'm making up. There are government reports talking about the influence of China on our bureaucracy. So, David, you are correct. And Steve says, preach it, Rob, preach it, Rob. So right. Thank you. Thank you. It's very rare that I get it right, but if I do, yeah, I appreciate it. One not on example. Okay. All right. Gary says people living on the streets, but let's put in bike paths, proving they don't care or they want it this way. Yeah, pretty much. And I go back to this housing. The homeless, they're not going to be able to afford any housing that's built. They're homeless. They're not interested in getting jobs. They're not interested in being responsible. And I don't want to make drugs illegal again. I think prohibition is a failure. I think actions should be made illegal. If you're loitering in a neighborhood you're not supposed to be in, maybe that should be a crime. I think that was found unconstitutional, so I may be wrong about that. But we do have camping ordinances. So when those bums come camping in Bandon in the residential neighborhoods, believe me, it only takes the cops 5 minutes to roust them out. And that's something that they're doing here in Bandon with the homeless. And because we are a tourist town, believe me, cops act pretty fast because they know where their bread is buttered, and it's buttered by having a presentable city. So all those golfers from the Dunes, which is a great place, the Dunes Golf Course is the savior of Bandon. And because of that, we've got to be presentable. So we're very strict on the homeless. But this homeless thing that Dick is doing, I don't know if it's going to do any good. I'm almost sure it's not, because Dick don't know Dick about politics. Lowering the cost to build. High and unpredictable fees kill the math on the very homes we need most. I'm pursuing concepts to bring those costs down. Capping parks and recreation system development charges, SDCs, and barring them from funding community centers rather than open space. That sounds good. A starter home subdivision framework allowing smaller lots and homes with a hard cap on impact SDC fees. So affordable homes actually pencil out, and that would be an okay thing too. Community development districts that let growth pay for its own infrastructure over 20 years instead of burdening existing taxpayers. And that's what urban renewal does for us. Urban renewal makes us pay for infrastructure that should be paid for by the people coming in who are using that infrastructure instead of those who've already built what we got. We already built what we got. You paid for it. Eliminating mandatory affordable housing percentages on UGB expansions that are stalling projects and converting LIFT funds from grants back to revolving loans. That they need to get rid of the urban growth boundary. If we privatized all utilities, we would have much better water. We'd have much better sewer and water treatment plants. But because they're owned by the government, there's a lot of shadiness going on. And so we just need to get rid of the urban growth boundaries. Redirecting state funding into the roads, water, and sewer system. Cities need the infrastructure that unleashes private home builders to build faster and bring down the actual purchase price of homes at every level. Now, there you go. Redirecting state funding into the roads, water, and sewer system. That's what government's supposed to pay for. Now, if they would get rid of this housing accountability and production office, take all the money that goes into that bullshit bureaucracy right there, and you take all that money and you start putting it back into the infrastructure, it would be amazing. It would be amazing how fast this will go. But this is all from Dick Anderson. I highly recommend you go check it out. You can find it on his page. There's Dick doing something stupid. Like I said, Dick don't know Dick about politics, and he'll sell us out real quick. So there you go. And he's working for you in Salem. Do you believe that? I don't think so. I don't think Dick's working for anybody other than his next campaign contribution. That's all he's working for. Let me remove that. Now, the governor, I was talking about accountability, and we were talking about Greg Smith and accountability. And there was an incident with Senator Solomon. I'm trying to find the story here on Senator Solomon. There it is. Okay. All right. This here is a story that just came out about a politician who was confronted, had her glasses thrown into the bushes. I don't know if you heard about this. Forest Grove constituent grabs Oregon senator's glasses at wetlands forum. And I can tell you right now, as someone who's I can get very animated at public meetings. I can tell you right now, it don't help you to get mad and throw a temper tantrum, lose your, oh, what the hell's going on here? Oh, there we go. And let me read this for you because this is funny. This is Janine Solomon. She was just replaced. She lost the primary and she was replaced with a very far leftist primary candidate. But Oregon State Senator Janine Solomon, I think it's Solomon, yeah, says, damn it, come on, says she was physically accosted by a constituent during a public forum at Fern Hill Wetlands in Forest Grove on Saturday, an encounter that ended with the man in handcuffs and Solomon calling the episode an act of political violence. The constituent, identified by Solomon as 28-year-old Pedro Garcia Balderrama. What a name, Pedro Garcia Balderrama. Wow, it's almost musical. Allegedly, we got to say that, got into her face, cursed at her, and grabbed her glasses before throwing them into the bushes as Forest Grove police arrived. According to the Oregon Live, Solomon was holding her 168th community conversation, an open outdoor constituent meeting held under the venue's covered shelter when Garcia Balderrama became, what the hell is that? When Balderrama became verbally combative toward her and roughly a dozen other attendees, Solomon asked him to sit down or leave, but he instead moved very close to her, right in her face, telling her to shut up and using profanity, the outlet reports. Solomon told the outlet she thought Garcia Balderrama was taking a swing at her before he grabbed her glasses and threw them into the bushes, which could be very scary for a woman. That could scare the crap out of you. For a grown-sized man taking a punch at you, yeah, that wouldn't have been good. A staff member called Forest Grove police, who arrived as Garcia Balderrama was leaving the event. The disruption lasted about 10 minutes per the same account. Garcia Balderrama reportedly posted about his TriMet ride to Solomon's appearance on Instagram before the confrontation unfolded. But, I can continue with the story, but they really don't tell why. It was a Class B misdemeanor, $2,500 fine if he's convicted. But he says he spent 3 hours in jail, a political backdrop already at boil. Solomon represents Senate District 15, covering Western Washington County communities, including Hillsborough, Forest Grove, Cornelius, and Rock Creek, and has served in the Oregon legislature since 2017, chairing the Senate Committee on Energy and Environment, which David Brock Smith sits on as well. According to the Oregon State Legislature, Hillsborough has one of Oregon's densest concentrations of data centers, an issue that has become intensely politically charged in the district. Solomon lost her Senate seat in the May 2026 Democratic Party primary to a progressive challenger, Myrna Munez. She's a socialist. She's a communist Democrat. I know they want to call them Democrat socialists, but they're communist Democrats who campaigned against data center subsidies and expansion. Political analyst framed the race, which Muniz won 51.7 to 46.1 as a direct referendum on data center growth and corporate tax subsidies in Washington County, as reported. And then it goes on. It talks about the databases, but it doesn't give a reason, part of a wider pattern of threats against officials. Someone described the confrontation as an act of political violence. Her account arrives amid growing national concern over hostility directed at local office holders. Well, not only office holders, Charlie Kirk would probably say he's in there if he could speak, but he can't because some dirty left leaning communist furry freak put a bullet in his head. So Charlie Kirk, he knows all about your political violence. So I kind of find it ironic that you have a Democrat getting so incensed because she had to face political violence. If you call this political violence in 2020, you would have been laughed at. A July 2026 report by the Princeton University Bridging Divides Initiative and the Brennan Center for Justice found that roughly 1 in 3 local office holders nationwide reported experiencing threats, harassment, or abuse tied to their public duties, according to Northeastern Global News. Researchers found that persistent hostility is driving some local officials to withdraw from civic engagement or decline to seek re-election. That's what's happening here, folks. Here's the thing. Not once during this whole thing do they explain why Valderrama attacked her. And I would imagine it was probably over a leftist issue. It was one leftist mad at another leftist because of a leftist issue. But that's not in the story, because if that was in the story, that would destroy their narrative. So I got to find out, and I will find out. I think I'm going to call the police department and see if they have a reason why he was doing that, because that's not in the news story. And the reason people are feeling intimidated and not wanting to run for re-election is, once again, I point out Charlie Kirk. We have people here who would be great candidates for office here in Coos County. They want to run for city boards. They want to run for county commissioner. They've considered it, but they're afraid. They're afraid because their business can be ruined or destroyed. Their livelihoods could be destroyed. Their reputation could be destroyed. Their families could be gone after. Their families' businesses or their families' jobs could be gone after. And we know this happens. The left loves to do this, and that's what they're doing to us on a never-ending basis. And part of it is to chill any conservative or any politician, even if it's a Democrat, who's not communist enough from running for office. This is intentional. This is all part of the intention. Let me go back to the comments. Looks like I got a few here. Holy jeepers. I got a few. And let's see. I believe the state is colluding with the federal government to manufacture the pretext of federal intervention and a push remove the 10th Amendment to consolidate it all into the one federal power. Not enforcing the laws makes sense in that context. Could be. I definitely think that you can look at the governor Tina Kotek's commercial. She's not running against Christine Drazen. We're going to talk about Christine Drazen here in a minute. She's not running against Christine Drazen. No. She seems to be running against Donald Trump, which behooves her because her base, they have Trump derangement syndrome. And because they have Trump derangement syndrome, she's going to run against Trump, which is a pretty good strategy, because why would you run on a failing record of failing policies? I mean, we're on the bottom of every list for good things. So that's just one of the problems. Liberty Cave. Hey, Liberty Cave, good to see you. Glad to meet you at the fair on Friday night. Regulation is a complete anti-American mess. Yeah, no shit. Gary Lee says, getting physical never helps. No, it doesn't. But it's just like a conservative walking near a leftist. They don't care when the leftists do it. I care, but yeah, I know. I get it. That double standard. If they didn't have double standards, they'd have no standards at all. Sally says, too bad they are not taking care of the homeless that constantly panhandle in the parking lot at the abandoned shopping center in McKay's. Well, I don't think they can, as long as they're on the sidewalk. As long as they're on the sidewalk. You know what makes me mad? They need to pass a law here stating that you can't hand people money from a car if you're on a road. And people have done this. I've been stopped in the middle of the road because somebody wants to give some homeless dirtbag and not all of them, but most of the time, I know these guys. They're dirtbags. They're criminals. And someone will stop and they'll give them a 20, and I'll be in my car honking my horn, yelling at him, what the hell's the matter with you? He's going to go buy booze. He's going to buy drugs. What are you, an idiot? And I've literally done that behind people. I don't know. Maybe you're a better have a better attitude when you're behind people like that. But this shit needs to stop. It just needs to stop. We need to stop feeding these people. We need to stop enabling them. And it is too bad that they're allowed to get away with that. And it's only getting worse in Bandon because we got a whole other group of dirtbags who have come into town. Gary says collectivist does cover them all for sure. Leftist is a label they seem to choose for themselves these days. And I agree with you. Leftists, and I see kids do this, they will proudly say, and I saw this in an interview today, I'm a leftist. Oh, okay, you're a leftist. Well, what exactly? What does that mean? And I don't know if they know what that means. That's the funny part. I don't know if half of these kids who call themselves leftists even know, but they're collectivists. And they'll call me a fascist, of course. And I'll say, no, how am I a fascist? And you know, to this day, I haven't had any leftist be able to explain to me or describe what I've done, what actions I've taken. That's fascism. In fact, I'm the guy who's leading the charge against the flock cameras. If I was a fascist, wouldn't I be pro-flock? Yeah, I think fascists are pro-flockers. I don't know. That's just just my opinion on that. Yeah, leftists, they're proud to be leftists. It's a term that they coined for themselves. I think you're right. I think we need to change that. They're collectivists. And that covers the fact that they're also fascists. Fascists are socialists. Fascists are definitely socialists. The Nazis were the National Socialist German Workers' Party. Okay, if that isn't a communist socialist entity, it's collectivism, no matter what you call it. So no matter what venereal disease of the day, and that's what they are, venereal diseases, a communicable disease, whether it be fascism or socialism, well, that's what it is. And David says, what is political self-defense? Just made up the phrase. Maybe he was trying to protect himself from her looking at him. Yes, political self-defense. It's like verbal judo. I don't know what political self-defense is. Yeah. Sally Boy says people have stopped traffic to give the panhandlers money at Walmart and the First Credit Union by Fred Myers. I know. See, that should be a crime. You shouldn't be allowed to do that. You're on a public road. Keep your ass moving. Damn. And by the way, if you see a homeless person on a sidewalk and they've got their junk all over the sidewalk, call the police. Tell them that it's an ADA, American Disabilities Act violation to block up the sidewalk. If someone was in a wheelchair, they cannot get down that sidewalk because some dirtbag is camped out on there. And that's one of the few things I've seen where the cops will come out and they will get rid of the dirtbags if they're blocking up the sidewalk. If they're just standing there with a cardboard sign, there ain't nothing you can do about it. But if they got all their stuff there and the wheelchair can't get by, you make sure and call the police dispatch and you say it's an ADA violation and you could face a lawsuit. And all of a sudden you'll see some action happen. It's something they should try a little more often, getting a little creative with law enforcement. Sally Boy says there are no panhandling signs by Fred Myers. No, probably not. Probably not. Let's see. Let me share this. It's jumping up and down. What's it doing? There we go. I think that's got it. I don't know if you saw this. Some people were pissed off by this. It doesn't surprise me. This right here is an example of what government does or what politicians do. Politicians, they never come out and actually lead the parade. Most of them are not leaders. They're cheerleaders. They're not leaders. They're cheerleaders. They're cheering on the team. Hey, let's cheer. They're cheerleaders. Very much like the mayor of North Bend. She's not a leader. She's a cheerleader. I mean, her day of work is going out and taking selfies of her doing things she really didn't do. She just showed up and took a selfie of herself. And boy, that page is jumping everywhere. What the heck's going on there? Wow. Let me refresh that and see if it got any better. There we go. Okay. So what has happened here, and I know a lot of people got ticked off about it, but this is just the way politics goes. A politician will find a parade, they'll get in front of the parade, and they'll say they're the leader. We're the leader of the parade. And they're not the leader. They just got in front of the parade and started marching ahead of everyone else. That's all that's happened. And so this is what Drazen has done. And by the way, I'm going to vote for Drazen. I'm asking you to vote for Drazen. Is she a perfect candidate? No. Does she have a good voting record? No. But we have very little choice in the governor's race, and she has a potential of winning. And we'll talk about that later, what the odds are. Boy, someone got mad because I was posting what the odds makers were betting or what the odds were on certain races. And boy, they got a little upset. And so Drazen, she proposes a constitutional amendment to protect Oregon hunting and fishing. Now, I'll tell you what, we already pretty much have an initiative that came out this last month, and you people of Coos County at the fair, if you got to go to the fair, you had the chance of signing, being one of the first to sign the petition that would give us a constitutional amendment to hunt, fish, ranch, and farm. It's strange that we even need an amendment to do that, but we do. That's today's crazy world. And so what does Christine Drazen do? Well, this is what she says. She says, as Oregon Republican gubernatorial candidate, Christine Drazen says, if elected, she plans to introduce a constitutional amendment during the 2027 legislative session that would protect the rights of Oregonians to hunt, fish, and farm. Wow, isn't that nice? Too bad someone's kind of already doing it. But if she's saying, and let me go on this because I didn't get a chance to read all the story. It says, Drazen said the proposal would allow voters to decide whether to add protections for cultivation crops and raising livestock to the state constitution. She made the announcement at Whites County Meats in Gresham following last week's news that initiative petition 28 failed to qualify for the November 2026 ballot after falling short of the required number of signatures. The proposed measure would seek to provide permanent protections for activities Drazen described as central to Oregon's identity. The event included supporters from agriculture, food production, business, and sportsman groups. Drazen is one of the confirmed general election candidates in the race for Oregon governor, alongside Democrat Governor Tina Kotek and Pacific Green Party candidate Brett Smith. I know you probably never heard of him, but yeah, there's actually a Pacific Green candidate. Kotek has opposed IP 28, saying criminalizing common agricultural practices and legal activities such as hunting and fishing would be detrimental for Oregon, and it would. And you notice the thing that's missing from that article? I'll tell you what the thing is missing. What happened to IP 25? If she was going to pass this through the legislature, she should have already introduced the bill here in Oregon when she was in session last February. See, that's Christine. If you're listening by some chance, I'm supporting you this time around. I'm trying to help you out here, but it gets very difficult to help you out and get supporters and get people engaged in your campaign when you're doing something that's kind of two-faced. Because if you really wanted to go after people who were going after our right to fish, hunt, farm, and ranch, then you would have put something in the legislature this past February. Did you? Did you put anything forth? Any type of constitutional amendment? I mean, that's what our representatives are supposed to do. And if you were a leader, you would have done that, Christine, but you didn't. This is very upsetting for someone who supports you. And then on top of it, you don't take any effort to mention the people who are pushing IP25, which does exactly what you want to do, but in the gubernatorial position, the governor's position. Boy, I went over that, the difference between gubernatorial and governor. It's all semantics. This is the same thing. But it really ticks people off. And I had several people contact me calling you names because they thought it was unfair what you did to the people who were promoting IP25. You should have got in on the bandwagon for IP25 as a leader and helped out the grassroots who are already starting that, instead of saying, oh, I'm going to go out on my own if I'm elected. So elect me and I'll do that. That's not leadership. That, once again, is getting in front of the parade and saying you're the leader of the parade. You're not. You just walked out in front of the people who were moving forward and you started moving forward with them. You're just at the front. It's not leadership. There's a difference. And Samantha says, this is what the rhinos do. Remember DBS did that for end vote by mail. Yeah. And that's what they do. They try to steal the thunder of the grassroots, and then they fail miserably, like David Brock Smith did with end vote by mail. He had no chance in hell, and he knew he had no chance in hell. He just wanted to make this public display that he was willing to take the heat for going after something that's politically unpopular in Oregon, because we have mostly crazy leftists here. I go back to the term, or the expression, Oregonians are the problem with Oregon. That's true. It's true. And so I hope we can do better, Christine. I hope that you try to find a bridge to the grassroots in your party, and you might find a lot more support, a lot more energy, a lot more motivation to get out and do things. And I'll tell you what, I was just out, was it last week, hanging up signs for Christine Drazen. And, I didn't want to do that, but I'm doing it. And I'm doing it for Monique Despain, and I'm doing it for Lynn Claire. I'm starting to get their signs out. And all I ask from you candidates is show a little appreciation and acknowledgement to the people in the grassroots who are busting our ass to get you elected. Okay, Christine? That's all I'm asking. And so I hope you vote for her. I hope you vote for Monique Despain, and I hope you vote for Lynn Claire. Now, this is something that I've been being attacked on the internet. I'm not voting for all the Republicans. I'm voting for all of them except for one. And you all know who that is. And I don't tell anyone how to vote. If you want to vote for that Republican, vote for that Republican. I don't hold it against you. I understand why you're voting for it, for him. I think that person is corrupt, and I choose to not vote for him or Merkley. But just because I won't vote for the Republican does not mean that I support the Democrat. And even Mark Anderson from I Spy Radio was trying to shame me in or convince me that I was wrong or sticking to my principles and not voting for a corrupt politician because it would give more or empower or show some type of support for the Democrat. And that's BS. You have a responsibility as a Republican to put good people of good character quality into office. You have a duty to, as a PCP, I have a duty to support those who are not committing corruption. Like Greg Smith, I'm glad I'm not in his district. I don't know how they're going to support Greg Smith in his district this year. That's kind of mind-blowing. I don't know if he's up for election, but I'm not going to vote for someone because the party tells me to. So don't let anyone shame you out of your choice. It is your right. It is your right to choose who you want or don't want to vote for. And if anyone tries to persuade you otherwise, they're not your friend. I told you, I don't tell anybody how to vote. When the ballots come out in November, well, actually, they'll come out in October. When the ballots come out, I will do the before the election show, and I'll show you what I'm going to vote. And I'll put the ballot up and show you exactly what I voted. And I'm not ashamed of saying I'm not going to support every Republican. I'm going to support them all but one. And anyone who tries to shame me or convince me otherwise, you're going to get a tongue lashing like you cannot believe. And I don't mean a tongue lashing like Sal will give you. I'm talking about a tongue lashing, a verbal tongue lashing that you will not forget. Sometimes it's not verbal because it's on Facebook, so it's written. A written lashing expressing my point, because I just get really ticked off when people like Mark Anderson from I Spy Radio, who should know better. He told me I have but two choices. I either have to vote, and in this case, it's Merkley or David Brock Smith. I have to vote for him. That's the primary. That's how it works. And I explained to Mark Anderson that, no, you're wrong. I can vote for a write-in candidate of my own choice, or I can vote for none of the above. Hell, I can take the ballot, wipe my ass with it, and go on vacation in Florida. I don't have to vote for somebody because you Republicans are telling me to. And you might want to think about that when you're dealing with other Republicans who don't feel the same way you feel or think the same way that you think about a certain candidate. And that's why I would never shame anyone. If you want to vote for David Brock Smith, I support your right. I hope you vote for him. And if he wins, great. I don't think he will. The odds makers have it against him. But if you do vote for him, good for you. I'm glad you made your choice, and I would be the first one to fight for your right to have that choice. But you damn well better be willing to fight for our right to make that same choice. And if you're not, then you're just as much of a scumbag as the commie leftists who are infiltrating our party, who are in Antifa, who are in Black Lives Matter, and who are part of the Communist Democrat Party. I know they say Democrat Socialist. It's Communist Democrats. So I just wanted to put that message out there because I've been taking a lot of heat because I haven't been kissing the elite's ass. And Jo Rae Perkins was another one. I love Jo Rae Perkins. I consider her a friend. And she thought I was being mad or angry because I snapped at her on Facebook because she was once again trying to tell me I have to vote for one or the other. It's a binary choice. It's not a binary choice. It's not. It's a choice that you and only you can make, and no one else can take that away from you. So Jo Rae, Mark Anderson, I respect both of you. I have great respect for both of you. I thank you for all the work you put in. But don't you ever come to me and try to make me feel like I'm making a bad choice because I'm sticking to my principles and I'm not going to vote for a corrupt, crooked politician. Period. And there you go. That's just my speech for today. I was going to save that for the Friday night rant, but I didn't get a chance. Let's see. Steve Nye says she doesn't give a shit. Christine Drazen. Yeah. And you're a Republican chair. And I agree with you. I just don't think she gives a shit. And yet we have to get behind her and support her. That's difficult. The Republican establishment really, and you voters out there who voted for Christine, you don't know the position you put us into. But we're going to support her. Most of us, I think, are going to support Christine Drazen. I think the odds makers gives her a lot better chance than DBS of winning her election. And I think with the mood, we might be able to do it. But the fact is we still got a corrupt voting system, and we've got more Democrats than we have Republicans. I don't know. Is Trump derangement syndrome too strong here in Oregon right now? Is it too strong for a Republican to defeat the Democrat? I don't know. Sally Boy says, nobody can resist my charming personality. No, they can't. It's true. You are the charmer. Preach it. I try to preach it. I say it, try not to spray it, but that sometimes happens. Sally Boy says, I meant to say there is signs that says that people can't panhandle on the road by Fred Myers. Yeah, and they probably still panhandle, don't they? Samantha says, actually, it's our election system. Even the registrations here in Oregon are algorithmed. And she's right. She's absolutely right. Well, folks, I got to go. It's been a real good time. I enjoyed it. I want to thank Samantha. I want to thank Sally Boy. I want to thank Jeff Petit. I want to thank all the rest of you for tuning in, David and Steve Nye and Gary. Gary, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. And if you can do anything, help out a patriot business. Help out a patriot business that's owned by conservative. It's really tough out there. 3H Tree Service, though, they're badass. They don't care. They are doing great in the tree business. In fact, they keep winning awards for their tree service. And right now, you can. They're the Toast of the Coast. They're in that contest. Please give a call or an email to. I think it's on the KWRO website. You can go there and find the Toast of the Coast. And you can nominate 3H Tree Service and all my sponsors for the categories that they belong to. And of course, this is Be a Tree Service. And you can reach them at 541-294-1800 for free estimates. Give them a call. Tree removal, tree trimming, and lot clearing. Good stuff there. And of course, Tom and Gigs, lift kits and performance accessories. And they got remote control cars and boats, drones, you name it. They got it. Go check it out. They're the largest RC dealer on the coast. You can find them at 135 South Shoneman Street. That's in Coos Bay, Oregon, in the Empire neighborhood behind the car wash. And you can call them at 541-888-4660. And remember, they will give you advice whether your car is travel worthy or not. So give them a call, set up an appointment, and you can take care of that. Really good stuff there. Let's see, what else? Herbal Choices. They're the cannabis dispensary of my choice, Herbal Choices. They're the premium cannabis coastal Premium Cannabis, Coastal Oregon. That's where they're at. Discover quality, shop responsibly. Boy, I'm screwing this up completely. You can find out more at the herbalchoices.com website. And remember, you must be 21 years or older just to get into the building. They might ask you for an ID just to get into the building. And remember, folks, cannabis is a drug, so don't give it to anyone under 21. Don't drink don't drive. Don't drink and drive, but don't smoke dope and drive. It's not a good thing. Don't be doing that. You can go home and do that. That's why I do the podcast from home. And of course, don't operate heavy equipment. Don't operate light equipment. You might not want to do that on pot. Just get a Doritos bag and have a good time. But that's my advice on cannabis. And they are the cannabis dealers of my choice, Herbal Choices. Let's go ahead and remove them from the stage. I got a couple of new comments here. Let's see what we got. Boy, a lot of comments today. You guys are very active. Thank you. Thank you very much. Peggy says we support both 3H and Tom and Gigs. Thank you. Thank you very much. Not only should you, they give great service. I have talked to so many people who have told me the great service they receive from Tom and Gigs, the great service that they get from 3H Tree Service, and the great products they get at Herbal Choices. I have people come up to me and tell me that all the time. Oh yeah, I'm glad that they sponsor you. I really appreciate what they're doing. And I go to their business all the time. And David says, nice show. Thanks. I'm thinking of a lift kit. We'll check it. Definitely do. And I want to thank you for tuning in. I will be back on the Friday night rant. And I can tell you, there's going to be a lot of ranting going on. We're just going to be in the ranting mood. I can just feel it this Friday. So tune in. If it was anything as good as last Friday when we were at the Douglas County Fair, you're going to want to watch the Friday night rant. That's every Friday at 8 o'clock. Catch it on Rumble, Facebook, X, or you can go to my website. My website usually has the current live video of my podcast while it's streaming live. You can go to my website and check it out. Very good stuff there. And you know what I always say, folks? Until next time, carry on, Coos County. Carry on.